if I grab onto it and I want them to like me more than I'm going to do what's best for them, then the relationship's probably not going to last long. So as a salesperson, I'm responsible to do what's best, even if it's not in my best interest, and that's hard.
Welcome back to Torch Talk, where we shine a light on the leaders shaping the business world with grit, growth, and purpose. Today we have Jordan Mullet, a sales strategist, team builder, and someone who's helping salespeople step out of the weeds and help drive growth. Welcome, Jordan.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We're figuring this out as we go. Okay, so today we're going to pick your brain a little bit. So I have some questions just to ask about your history, where you've been, what you see the most in sales teams that you work with, what are the common denominators, and see if you have some personal experiences, stories that you can share with us that people can learn from.
Good. Sounds like a good time.
Okay, so I have some fun questions to start with. What was your first sales job?
So I was working at a comfy indoor job doing IT, and my friends were selling security systems door to door, and they convinced me that I could make more money and have more fun if I went with them and sold security systems. So I quit a salaried position inside in the middle of the winter to go take a full commission sales position. And I started the 1st of January. The first day I started was in a snowstorm. I still wasn't smart enough to go, hey, this might not be a good idea. So knocking doors, selling security systems, usually about a step away from wherever the worst neighborhood was. Canton, Akron, Youngstown, Cleveland. I was so good at what I did. I was like 22, 23 years old. I was so good that I did not get invited into a home for 3 months. So that was the beginning of my sales career.
And
so
you
can you
stuck
imagine
with it all these years?
6 days a week. I love sales so much. 6 days a week, every afternoon, knocking doors, 6 days a week. And it took me, what is that? I think it was 2.5 months if you count it that way. So 10 weeks. That's 60 days before I got invited in the first house. That wasn't even to make a sale. That was, hey, come on in and tell me more. That's how bad I was, Lindsey. It was awful.
How long did you do that job?
I made it 10 months. And then I called my dad. And by that point, I was actually helping run an office in Cleveland. I called my dad and said, Dad, I need a job. I'm done. I can't do this. And he goes, I don't know. I don't think I have any positions open. I'm like, Dad, you have how many employees? You have something. I'll take anything. He's like, oh, if you're talking about anything, yeah, I need a forklift driver right now. And I'm like, I'm in. So I made it 10 months in the sales world, and I was done.
I mean, that sounds pretty rough.
It was not fun. Now, by the end, I was starting to do it, but it was just, I don't know. It was hard. Door knocking is the hardest thing you'll ever do. Like walking up to a door. I mean, I got yelled at one time because I knocked on the door and I didn't ring the doorbell. And the lady literally yelled at me for knocking on her door. Like, she was like, you don't do that. You don't knock on somebody's door. I have a doorbell.
Would you even do that now, though? Imagine, 20-some years later. I was thinking about that recently. I would not answer. Well, I do. If somebody knocks on my door, then I better answer it because they had to go out of their way to get to my door. But people are so weird now about. Anyway, that's a whole derail.
Would I answer
if you were
the door?
a door-to-door salesperson in today's world, it's actually even worse because you're scary.
Oh yeah.
People think that you're out to scam them or, I don't know, barge into their home in the middle of the day.
I don't think people were too opening or welcome back then. It was like you could walk down a whole street, you'd see people on the other side looking out the windows, and by the time you get there, they weren't home. I don't know. It's hard.
They thought you were.
Nobody likes a door-to-door salesman.
Yeah.
Right. That's
rough.
It's a tough gig. Yeah.
For sure. I was a telemarketer when I was 18, 19 years old. I only lasted about 2 months. They, first of all, had too flexible of a schedule for an 18-year-old. They were like, well, you can, come and go, kind of set your own hours as long as you hit call quotas. And I wasn't managed enough to, I was just like, well. and I just didn't show up for like a whole week. And the next day I went in.
They are picky about that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, you do have to
2 or
show
3 days
up.
maybe, but
Yes,
not a week. Yeah.
Right. That was a rough job, though. I really hated it.
That's hard, yeah. I mean, we're taught from very young up, like, don't talk to strangers, don't talk about money, don't talk about those things. And, like, all of a sudden we're getting paid to go do those things. It's a lot to overcome.
Yeah. Well, and nobody answers the phone now. Back
Oh, yeah.
20-some years ago, they answered the phone more often because they didn't have caller ID and all. Cell phones weren't really, I mean, they were there, but they weren't as common,
Yeah.
so it was different. But
Did you get yelled at?
I got hung up on a lot.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
not
calling for a
bad.
telemarketing company for the American Heart Association, so it
Oh.
was like to get donations or to participate.
Yeah.
It was a little different, but
Yeah, that's not bad.
I wouldn't do it again.
No.
But I also like sales, so it's interesting to start out with like a really bad experience, but to like it didn't totally.
I can top my first job. My second sales job, I actually worked for one of my dad's companies and was a salesperson there, and I was so good at it. I did it for a year that I didn't make a single sale. So kind of went 0 for 2 in sales and then didn't do it for a really long time. So
when did you decide to jump back into it and try it again?
I always had a love of sales. I just didn't know what I was doing and didn't understand it. And then my family asked me to take a sales manager role at one of our companies. And then that's kind of when I jumped in there. And I was hesitant. I didn't feel like I knew enough or could understand. But I told my brother, I said I'd do it for a time. But that still wasn't really selling. That was sales manager. So it was helping the salespeople sell. And I definitely had a passion to help them, but in some ways, I didn't really start selling until I joined the Ruby group and started with Sandler. That's when I really started to sell, where it was basically up to me.
But you were introduced to Sandler in that sales manager role,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that. How were you introduced to Sandler? What did you like about it?
Well, so my brother's the one that uncovered what Sandler was. He had a salesperson that was selling to him, and he started asking the salesperson questions like, why are you different? And started recognizing that when that salesperson came, he said, I always knew, when he was going to come, when he was going to leave, what we were going to talk about, what the action steps were. And he just noticed that salesperson was different, and so he started asking questions. And then that's when he found out, they're working with Sandler. Well, he had never heard of him, so he sent me an email. He said, have you heard of Sandler? I hadn't, so this was 2011. I jumped on the internet and went to Sandler.com and found out that the closest location was in Akron. I filled out some information. They ended up calling me, and then they asked if we would invite them down. I invited them down. Then they said, here, fill out this information beforehand. This will help us understand. And I remember filling out the information. And I printed it out. There's probably 30 or 40 questions on there. You check all the boxes of like the problems that you're having. And I checked so many boxes that I actually threw it away and printed out another one. And I thought, I'm not going to tell them, you're not going to invite somebody in and tell them all these things. So I checked fewer boxes and then sent it back to them. That was 2011. They came down. We ended up seeing, okay. They have a system, there's a process, and we were working through a lot of other things that we were trying to build systems and processes in. So that's kind of what got us interested.
I was mistaken because I knew your history a little bit, and I thought that it was actually a Sandler salesperson who was selling to your brother, but it was a salesperson who was being trained by Sandler. Got
Yes.
it. That makes sense.
Yeah, a gentleman named Hod. I've run into him a couple times. He's from Dayton. Sells equipment in the area. I don't think he sells in this area as much anymore. But then it was interesting because I got to know the franchise that was eventually training him, based out of Dayton. They're still there, the Wentworth Group, and got to say thank you to them. So they did such a good job training their salesperson, their client, that it made an impact on us. So it was good.
Okay, so how long after that, from when you started implementing Sandler, that you made the jump to actually join Sandler?
Yeah, so that was middle of 2011. At the end of 2013, told my brothers, hey, I'm not the best fit for the sales manager job. I'm going to work my way out of the job, and then we'll figure out what's next. So I spent most of 2013 doing that, kind of putting things in place, getting them ready for whoever's next. And then when we went to sit down to figure out what I was equipped to do and what I'd do, we kind of went up and down through the companies, and we got to the end, and we were literally sitting there like at wit's end, because everything we'd suggest, it was like, well, I don't know if that's a good fit. I'd suggest something, they'd be like, I don't know. So we're sitting there stumped, the three of us, and my one brother looked at me and goes, what if you'd look outside the company? And I'm like my, how you do with brothers, you're like flared up a little bit. And for the next like 5-10 minutes, I'm like, are you kicking me out? And then once I understood kind of where they were coming from, and we had a coach in the business at the time, and he had been telling them, if Dad wouldn't have started the business, Jordan would probably never work here. And he was just recognizing I'm just built different, right? Going to the same place over and over again every day was slowly killing me. And so they were just recognizing that, and they basically said, Jordan, if you want to go, we got this. And once I was sure they weren't kicking me out and they were just saying, we have your best interest in mind, I made the decision in the meeting that I was leaving. And I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I was going. I felt like, I forget how the Bible says it, like a calf let loose from the pen, right, kicking. And another verse that the Lord gave me was in Psalms 18. It talks about being set in a wide open field. And I just felt, I don't know, I had never experienced freedom like that before. Growing up inside of a family business and all the expectations and all the things that come with that, it was, yeah. And I didn't even know where I was going to go. So I made the commitment, went home and told my wife. She was in complete shock. Told my family. And then we had to figure out, okay, not only how do I leave well, but what am I going to go do? And I remember one of my first conversations was with a friend, and I was telling him I'm leaving. And I'm like, who wants to hire a second-born son in a business? Like, it's not like I've been in these great leadership roles. It's not like I have all this experience. What am I going to go do? How do I replace my income? And my friend said, oh, that's easy. Just be a consultant. And I'm like, what's a consultant? I thought that's what old men did. So that's when I really started to look at Sandler. They had kind of floated it out to me before. Hey, if you're ever looking. And I knew, so what I eventually landed on was three things. Number one, I wanted to help my community, right? I love being born in Berlin, being part of this community, Amish country, all those different things. And so number one, help my community. Number two, I wanted to help business owners have a deep, I don't know what you call that, affiliation? No, can't think what the word is, but like connection with business owners. And then number three, I wanted it to be something with sales because I love sales. So Sandler checked all those boxes.
And it's been how long now?
April was 11 years.
Okay.
I didn't even know what the word autonomy was until I started there. So autonomy means the freedom to make choices. And going there, coming from working in manufacturing where everybody shows up every day, same time, either 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and the factory's open, there's people working, and then just that expectation of being there, from that to kind of being on my own. The home office is in Akron, and I established an office down here, even though it was my countertop to begin with.
Did you handle switching to autonomy well at the beginning, or was that a struggle? Because a lot of people struggle with that self-management switch.
Yeah, I mean, it's I grew into it. I would say I was very motivated the first year. And I had poured into my network. There was a lot of people that I had already been investing in relationship-wise. And so I was able to go build connections with them, and they became my first clients, which was really helpful. So I was able to grow the business quickly. But then once I kind of reached a certain level, all of a sudden, because you set goals that you don't think are necessarily achievable, and then you hit them really quickly. And then after that, it got a lot harder to grow. So I plateaued multiple times in those first 5-6 years as I started to try to understand, what does it take to really grow a business? How do you really make a difference in people's lives? How do you impact a sales organization? Because, not everything is, there's always low-hanging fruit that you can do, but to be able to continue to impact a company long-term is difficult. And caring enough and wanting to do that when your needs are met is hard. So learning that autonomy, I don't know. It's been a chore. Yeah.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, 18-year-old Lindsey didn't handle autonomy well, but 30 or 40-something-year-old Lindsey handles it a lot differently.
Yeah.
But it's different when you have you had a family counting on you. You couldn't just not put food on the table.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of choice there. But still, some people handle it better than others.
The question that Mike, one of my business partners, what he would ask, our CEO, is he would say, I'd be really struggling and, I'm trying to hide it, not making it obvious that I'm struggling. And he would ask me a question that I love. And I've asked many other people the same question. Which he'd look at me and he'd say, Jordan, like if you had to choose a number right now, what percentage of you are you getting out of you right now? And I would immediately begin to stammer, like, your one part of you is answering the question and the other part's going, oh crap. And that question got me so many times because what I would recognize is I'm probably getting what feels like 30 or 40% out of me, but I'm, in the meantime, I'm telling him 60 or 70%, right? Because I'm hiding and realizing. And
you mean like effort?
Well,
so like what is it? I guess I don't.
So I like to think about it. So I had a crazy experience in Vegas one time. That's probably not the way to start that sentence. I had a crazy driving experience in Vegas one time. You can go out to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway and you can rent an exotic car. So a bunch of us are out there for a show, and we went out. They shuttle you out there, and then you drive around this track, right? So I rented a Lamborghini, and basically when you're driving a car with that much power, the ability to put your foot on the gas and keep it there is really, really difficult but the car's capable, which is really weird because so you floor it and you're shoved back in your seat and you can barely think and you're going through the gears really quickly, and then boom, you got to brake, and you brake a lot later than you think, and the thing brakes like crazy, and then boom, you're right back on the gas, and it's uncomfortable. And that's kind of what it felt like is what I was really capable of. It was difficult to keep my foot on the gas because what would happen is the fear of failure, I'd move past that pretty quickly because, my needs were met, things like that. But to be able to give it everything that I had and not make excuses and not pull my foot off and justify, well, I'm just not good at that, or that's not scary. That by far was much more difficult. And that still has a fear of failure in it. But when I don't have to risk that, like, why would I? What makes it worth it to go hit it? Now, financially, to go hit different goals, you're able to do different things. Like, yeah, sure, we want to be able to pay off a vehicle, pay off the house, add on, pay for that,
Send kids to college.
It's all those other things. And sales is weird because depending on how hard you work and what you do, you basically set your own salary. So if I want to make $1 million, I can make $1 million. It's just, what am I willing to do for it? If I want to make $100,000, I can make $100,000. What am I willing to trade for it? So it's, in some ways, it's not like other careers. It's like, how hard do I want to work? How hard do I want to push? How much risk do I want to take? How far outside my comfort zone do I want to be? And I think it was about 2-3 years in, I started to really understand, because what would happen is I'd have a breakthrough. I'd get to the next level, but I'd get to the next level, and then instead of just continuing to push, I would want to Well, it's a little bit like those campers that you see at the campground. They call them permanents, and they install plumbing, and they have landscaping and a deck, but it's a camper, right?
You wanted to coast for a little
Oh man. So that's that hard thing about learning how do I continue to push and stay outside my comfort zone. So I remember telling Mike, "Oh, I get it. I'm just never going to be comfortable." So we have a term, get comfortable being uncomfortable. But how do you, like, you can't really do that, right? How do you get comfortable being uncomfortable? Because as soon as you get comfortable being you're comfortable. Like, it's not.
Have the expectation of being uncomfortable would probably be a better way to say that. But
Yes.
we say that too.
Yes. So it's just that you're always outside your comfort zone. I mean, this week, I'm outside my comfort zone this week. Like, I'm facing things. I'm like, well, it would be easier just not to have her. I had an opportunity last week and I squandered it. I did not. I rate myself scale of 1 to 10. I probably put in about 2.5 effort out of 10. Right. So afterwards, I'm like, well, I could justify it. I could say, well, that's not worth it. And pull back a little bit, stay comfortable. But I feel like I have a duty. I feel like it's something I'm called to. And so now I have to face the fact that I basically stubbed my toe, failed. And I'm like, even today, I was feeling myself not pushing. Like, I'm already, just because of what happened last week, I'm going,
I understand. And I like sales too. But running a business, it is what I find for myself. And you probably see this a lot in your clients, more so than, I don't know, identifying in your own individual roles. I think if I could just 100% focus on sales, it'd be different. I would still experience what you are talking about, because I've been in sales roles before where it is easy, you've reached a point and it's easy to coast, because it takes constant energy to go to that next level. And I don't know that it's not okay to just coast for a second. Sometimes you need that to get to the next level too. Like, could you really go 0 to 100 forever without the coasting periods, seasons?
Yeah. So somebody asked me the other day, was there winter in the Garden of Eden? Right? Or are the seasons, like, is that, because I believe there's seasons in life, there's seasons in everything that we're doing, like, and we need winter.
Well, we need the hard things to grow.
We need the hard things to grow. It's through that character is built. So then the question is, how am I going to respond to the situation? Am I going to lick my wounds and then just pretend like it never happened and move on and never pursue what I'm pursuing? Because, and again, at this level, the things I'm pursuing are not one sale, right? I'm pursuing a new market. I'm pursuing new opportunities. And it's not the type of thing that I'm creating it, right? I'm creating markets that have never been there before. So if I don't do anything with it, and I just kind of fade off into the distance, which is what my teenage version of me wants to do, then who's gonna say something? I'm already successful. I'm already, are my existing customers going to be mad at me that I didn't go pursue this new market? So I'm wrestling with a lot this week, just trying to figure that out. So, long answer, autonomy. How do I handle it today? It's hard. Right? You have to be your own boss. You have to set your own goals. You have to have your own coach. That makes a big difference.
There's a lot of misperception that comes with that. Like, my husband will be at home, we'll be talking about the schedule for the week, and he's like, you just set your own schedule. And I'm like, I have 20 some odd people counting on me. Like, yes, could I move my entire day around to do this thing? But should I? Maybe not so much. Or if I do, then whatever I was supposed to do during that time is only moving to a different time. So, and sometimes we have to make those choices as a trade-off. But
it's funny. I do tell myself sometimes when somebody postpones on me, it's like I gain time, but you really don't. You're just moving it around.
Yes.
You're taking free time that could have been in 2 weeks and moving it to this time right now. But
yeah.
It's interesting being your own boss. I think everybody needs to learn it.
Well, and it gives you an advantage in working with your clients as well, because you understand what it's like to be in their shoes. I would say that that's what gives us an advantage as well. Like, in working with clients, we understand the seat that they're sitting in. It's different than they were working with a marketing agency that's national and they're just working with a rep who's never been a business owner, has always worked in corporate, there's an understanding that I have with the struggle that they go through every day.
Yeah. I think understanding how to trading time for money is interesting, right? If I get an hourly wage, I'm making a promise to somebody that I'm going to produce a certain amount or do a certain amount of things. But what you discover really quickly is that you can disappear, right? And still get paid. So you can show up part of the time and still get paid, right? I mean, that's kind of what happens. Well, the consequences tend to be steeper when you're in business by yourself, right? So when you don't show up for a certain amount of time, things change, and then all of a sudden you're not getting paid. It affects us. And I think it's something everybody needs to learn, and they do eventually. They learn, if I want to get paid more, then I just need to show up more consistently and do better work. But I wonder if all of us would answer the question, like, what percentage of me am I getting out of me right now? Like, how much do I actually hold back? Do I have the guts and courage to put my foot on the gas at a consistent level, and to be able to go outside of my comfort zone? I think anybody that's working hourly, their business, sales, no matter what it is, you have to learn how to do that. Anyway, it's hard. I'm raising a 15-year-old and a 19-year-old, so I think about these things a lot because I'm trying to build into them these same principles and helping them understand you can go get an hourly job. It's a great thing. It's I think it's an incredible advantage. Somebody's going to guarantee you work and say, every time that you show up, I'm going to give you X amount of dollars. That's a good trade.
I was waiting for the goodness because I was afraid all the employees in Fierce would listen to this and be like, I'm going to quit my job because Jordan said it's better to.
Well, but we don't always think of it as an agreement or a trade-off, like we're trading something.
I think time as a currency is something that business owners understand in a way that most other people don't. Or they should. Maybe they don't even, I don't know. I was just reviewing my calendar even before this meeting, and I was like, I literally look at those open time slots like this is money. Either I'm giving it or I'm receiving it. Either way, it is like time is a currency, and I need to spend it wisely.
Well, then I'm very grateful that you're spending some of it with me here on the podcast.
It's the best.
It's good. I think the best way I ever heard it put, a siding contractor, it was him and another guy, he said it took him a while when he was running his own business that he had to realize that every time he turned his truck on, if he's not making money while the truck's running, he's in trouble. So it took him a while to realize that and so for somebody hourly, when they're getting paid and they're clocked in, they better be moving something forward. And if they're moving the wrong thing forward, then it doesn't matter what you're getting paid. At some point, there's going to be a reckoning. So salespeople, right? I promote them working towards full commission. Salary is a good thing, but it breeds security, and it's much easier to become that camper. It's much easier to become that permanent at the campground where you install plumbing, right? You've got the landscaping, but it's not
have a little risk on the line.
Yeah, but it's not. Salespeople are not designed to be permanent, right? Because nothing stays the same. It's always changing, and that's another thing I'm wrestling with right now as a salesperson. Is that yes, my business has grown, but that just means that more things are changing on a daily basis. When I've got fewer clients, there's fewer things that are changing. But the more clients I get, the more things that are constantly changing. This salesperson leaves. This situation's changed. They're having this. And so what level of movement am I okay with, right? Part of me wants to go back. I like the level that I was at before, but it doesn't pay the same. Right? So if I want to keep growing, I got to be okay with having a lot more problems because more equals more. That
was a good one.
Right?
I think that's going like snapshot, more equals more.
More equals more. And that my friend Matt says that one. More equals more. So if you're going to have more sales, you're going to have more problems.
More money, more problems.
Yeah, there it is. That's really what it is. Yeah, more money, more problems.
I'm going to ask you a few questions that I think our audience would like to hear the answers to.
Fair.
Okay. What would you call the trifecta of successful sales teams? Or like what are the key characteristics that you see in successful salespeople?
David Sandler, when he would visit a new city, This is back in the 80s and 90s. Every time he'd get invited to a new city, he'd say, I want to meet the top salespeople in this community. Who are the top salespeople? And then he would go interview them, which is really interesting. So he found that there's three things that play into a top salesperson. It's their behavior, their attitude, and their technique. And most people would think, oh, well, if they have good technique, right, they're good in front of the person, they're going to have good sales. But then what he discovered is you can have the right technique, but if your attitude's off, then technique can go sideways, because I can wake up and sell what I think is exactly the same as I did the day before, but all of a sudden I start to doubt something, and that doubt creeps in. That doubt affects how I sell. So attitude affects technique. But here's the thing, is most salespeople struggle to do the right thing at the right time, and they're just not in front of enough people. So what tends to happen is, even if they've got the right attitude and their technique is good, usually they're just not doing it often enough.
So the behaviors are lacking a little bit.
98% of success comes from the behavior that drives the attitude.
So what's trainable out of those three things? So
Well,
let's say you have like a younger person you're looking at, or they haven't been in sales yet. I don't know. There's lots of different scenarios.
so if I can
of.
find somebody that acts in the right way consistently without forethought or anything like that, they're just inclined to go do the right thing at the right time, you can help them with their attitude and you can teach technique. So being able to find somebody that is willing to do the behaviors. For example, I'm working with a young salesperson right now who struggles to do 20 to 30 behaviors a week. I have another salesperson that I'm working with that routinely does 500 to 600 behaviors a week. Now, very similar industries, very similar outreaches. What's the difference? One is doing 500 to 600 a week, and one's doing 20 to 30.
Okay, I hear you on that one, but how do you train somebody on their attitude?
On their attitude?
Your answer surprised me a little bit, because I would have guessed that behaviors can be trained and that technique can be trained, but attitude is harder to train.
Well, it is, but behavior drives attitude. So if they're doing the right thing, guess what? Their head's going to get in the right space. So, if they're waiting to feel good to be able to go do 500 behaviors, so let's even just call it 100 a week. So what happens is that 20 to 30 a week, they're having a lot of doubt and worry. So they spend a lot of time and they procrastinate, and they only do 20 to 30, and then they don't get much results out of it. And so they're like, is this even worth it? Right? That's attitude. Nobody even responds back. This isn't going to work. And in the meantime, the guy that's doing 500 to 600 is just cranking those out. He's getting responses. He's actually making some sales, even though he doesn't have much experience, because he's putting himself in front of how many people.
What are the best behaviors to do? So I'm assuming from a sales perspective, that's phone calls, email.
Yeah, and it's different for everybody. So email's the hardest. Anything cold is the most difficult, right? And if you're going to do cold, you have to do 500, 600.
So what are the other behaviors besides phone calls or emails that you would count?
Networking, introductions, cold drop-ins, servicing your existing clients really, really well to the point where they're going to recommend you. So under promise, over deliver. That one can't be stated strongly enough, right? So if you're struggling, if your clients are not recommending you and they're not referring you, you're probably not servicing them well. So if you have any type of existing work where you're part of that, you should be evaluating every part of that to be able to make sure I'm servicing them well. But you need to go do the behaviors. So I don't care what it is that you start, you have to set goals and say, I'm going to do X amount of behaviors. I've been doing this 11 years. I'm still held accountable on a daily, weekly, monthly basis on how many behaviors I do. So even though my goals are very low in comparison now because my business is churning, I'm still held accountable to a sales goal every single month.
Do you have a specific industry that you do most of your sales coaching in, or are you pretty diverse?
Industry agnostic, but I have a lot of manufacturers. I have in-home sales. I have marketing. I have a whole list. I've got farmers. I got people that are selling into dairy farms. I've got ditchers. I've got I don't know, it's all kinds. So
So you have a wide variety.
yeah, because what happens is you get introduced to somebody and you get pulled into something, and then you got to go learn new. So
Do you ever have a time where you're sitting with a client, they potentially want to bring you in for sales training, and you feel like maybe they need to work? Is their product or their service ever an issue before you'll even do sales training?
well, that's a good question. No, it's typically it's more I'm looking for a growth mindset, and if they're willing to grow and change, and I feel like I can influence them that way, that's typically what's a better fit. And then we can figure out the rest, because there really has to be a good fit between me and the leader. Like if there's not a connection there, and I don't feel like I have the skill set to be able to help them, then it's probably not a good fit.
I asked that question because client experience is something that we talk about a lot with our clients. And I was just thinking about, so we work with a lot of service-based businesses. And specifically, let's take roofing as an example. It's extremely competitive, really difficult. And I would say, from my experience, difficult for them to differentiate themselves from, they all say the same thing.
Yeah.
So their language, but even in their experience and their process, to have somebody truly change. I was thinking about, like you said, if somebody's not referring you, then you're probably not giving a very good client experience, which can happen with a salesperson one-to-one. But I didn't know if there was ever in your sales coaching where you were like, okay, wait a minute, pause for a second. We've been sales coaching for a little bit. Maybe there's something else broken in the system with a product or with an experience or with a service. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that happens. Yes.
Are those things?
Yeah,
Is it always just sales fault?
No,
I would actually say it's always marketing's fault. That's what I usually am receiving. But
no, because you can, if all of a sudden we're doing the right things and the right way, and all of a sudden things aren't happening, people are resisting, because you can always tell. So let you go talk to 20, 30, 40, 50 people in your market, and nobody's buying. That's telling you something, right? The market's responding to you. I'm working with one gentleman who is door knocking, and he's doing cold drop-ins. That's what he does, and he's just landing business. All he's having to do is show up, which tells you that the market is responding to him and telling him, hey, we need more of this. I have other people that are doing cold drop-ins, and they're not having much success. Right? The market is not yelling, hey, we need help. Now, we'll work on what they're saying there, right? Some of that is they're not confident. They feel like a bother. Some of it's technique and attitude. They're not doing it enough. But boy, when you're not a good salesperson and you don't like sales and you show up and people are buying, that's telling you the market wants something, right? You don't have to be brilliant there. So you have to understand the industry and is this something easy to sell or is it hard to sell? So, does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. I just didn't know if you would be ever willing to admit that it was any problem other than sales.
Yeah, I do. I think there's some things that are easy to sell, and then we want to identify that. Then it's just get out there as much as possible and stay out of the way. Anytime that you have to introduce something new to somebody, there is demand fulfillment and there's demand creation. Demand creation is way harder than demand fulfillment. Demand fulfillment is I already know I need it. There's an awareness there. I might even shop it around. Now that's a different game, right? Roofing is a demand fulfillment typically. I'm going to go get 2-3 quotes. I know who to call, right? All I need is a roofer. Demand creation is a completely different thing. So at some point, somebody was the first insurance salesman, right? Somebody had to go convince people to give them money with nothing to return in case something bad happens. Now, I don't know when insurance started. That's demand creation. That's a hard sell. Today, we're required to have insurance, so it's not difficult to sell insurance. That's demand fulfillment. Now, if you're going to go demand creation is now the salesperson sitting down with the business owner or the homeowner and saying, well, have we talked about umbrella? Have we talked about, and now they're going to introduce new aspects of that. Those are completely different types of sales. Now, what ends up happening is a lot of the demand creation people come to us. Because the demand fulfillment, different game. And usually you can show up, you can just be average, and you'll get your fair share.
Well, and so what I've experienced in being in 12 years of banking and then a lot of other experience since then is even in an industry, there's different seasons of that. So we had COVID. So we had very high lead generation and service-based businesses during that time. So demand fulfillment for sure.
Yep.
They just needed to show up.
Yeah, yep. Don't screw it up.
We're
Yep.
not in that phase. We're leaving that
Yes.
phase now. Have been for the last year. They're all resisting it.
Mm-hmm.
They're all fighting it with all their might. But the reality is most people don't want to get their roof replaced. So they're going to have to do a little demand creation
Yes.
in that situation. And that's actually from a marketing perspective how we look at helping clients, because if we can help them, the client potentially feel something, connect to the brand prior to the salesperson showing up or reaching out, then that will help hopefully lay a good groundwork for them to find their way in. But the creation versus fulfillment is really interesting to me.
The other thing that was introduced to me by a CFO at one point was that he said that most money is made and lost in the up and the down. He said that when something changes, your ability to respond to that change as quickly as possible and be an early adapter to that change, to grab on and to get when it's good, is just as important as on the other side that you make the shift when it goes bad. So you change away. And that's hard for a lot of people because it's difficult on either side. So for those roofers, the ones that could get out there as quickly as possible and scale very quickly to go capture as much sales as possible, and then be on the other end and make the adjustment when it slows down to now we have to change how we sell and what we do. Those are difficult things. But the faster a business can do that on either end is where money is made, which is really hard.
Yes. Well, and it usually requires doing the opposite of what you feel. No matter what industry you're in, whether you're in sales or you're the business owner just trying to make decisions, usually if you want to pull back, it might be the best time to lean in, and you might miss your best opportunity if you don't lean in. That could be spending more money. It could mean spending more time, whatever that looks like. But
Yeah.
those are conversations we have a lot.
Well, and that's where it's important to have advisors, even a board, different people that are objective inside of the viewpoint that can point those things out to you. Because when you're subjective and you're getting pulled in all those feelings, you're in trouble.
Yes.
So you need good advisors.
For sure. Do you have a favorite client transformation story? What's the longest client relationship you have?
One of my clients has been with me 10 years. That's been a great privilege. It's interesting to spend 10 years with a client when it comes to sales. What are the different things that you're working on? Favorite transformation. I had a salesperson recently that is discovering that it's okay to say no. And he's very much has a desire to please people. He wants people's approval, which is hard for salespeople. Because if I need your approval, then how can I say and do things how can I say the truth, right? How can I be brutal? And so that salesperson was really struggling, and helping him uncover that it's okay to say no to people. It's okay to disagree with them. It's okay if you don't do business together. And as we were working through some of those different things, I put him through some exercises, and it really clicked to him that I can't say yes to everybody. And he actually said no to an opportunity that, if it worked out, would have been a great opportunity with a business that he really liked. And because he was willing to say no and explain it to the leader that he said no to, the leader said, "Okay, I understand," and it redefined the relationship. And when he did that, it then changed all their conversations from there on out. And the leader actually ended up coming back about 6 months later and saying, "Hey, I've got this other opportunity which I feel like might be a better fit for you guys." And even if it doesn't work out, that change in that salesperson is that he's recognizing I can't just say yes to everybody. And for somebody that needs people's approval, that was a big step for him.
And that is something we run into a lot. I mean, I think I think if you looked at the population, they're probably split.
Yeah.
Or there's a very large number that's actually people pleasers. I like to say all the time, we need to give our clients what they need, not what they want. They often don't know what they actually need. We're willing to hear them out and have the conversation, and sometimes handled delicately, but internally, I always equate it to you don't want to give your toddler ice cream at 4:00 when you know dinner's at 5, right? So because you love them and you care about them, you're going to give them the nutritious thing and wait. So we have to look at our relationships the same way. Caring is clarity and kindness. It all goes together. And conflict makes better relationships.
It does.
So that's an example of that there, if you're able to be honest. I know we recently had to say no to a client because there was crossover with a couple of other clients, and it turned into a really good experience for them, for both of our clients, and all of that developed into good conversations. It still sucks to say no.
It does. And my people pleasing part of me is still active. It's not like it just goes away.
Yeah.
So I have a client right now that I'm working with that I'm suggesting, hey, I don't think the way that we're doing this makes sense. I think we either need to go big or small. And I want them to choose big, right? Mm-hmm. Choose more of me, not less of me. And they chose the opposite. So I forced the conversation. I know it's what's best. Like, the place that we're at is not healthy. We need to do something. But then I have to give them the freedom to choose. And the people part of me wants them to choose more of me. But mm-hmm. it's a good thing. It's a healthy relationship. Relationships ebb and flow.
So having the conversation might result in less now, but more later.
Yeah.
Too.
Maybe.
You don't know.
You don't know. That's the thing, is that you still have to do what's best there.
Yeah.
And that's where, and it's taken me a long time to realize I need to, every time I try and grab onto something, it's like that example of the monkey that you put something into the hole that's just big enough that they can get their hand through it, but not their fist. Mm-hmm. And they grab onto something, they won't let go, and then the monkey's trapped because they're stuck in that hole because they can't get their fist out. But that's sales. That's that people pleasing, is if I grab onto it and I want them to like me more than I'm going to do what's best for them, mm-hmm. then the relationship's probably not going to last long. Mm-hmm. So as a salesperson, I'm responsible to do what's best, even if it's not in my best interest, and that's hard.
Yes.
It's very difficult.
Okay, any closing tips, top tips for salespeople? You have somebody out there who is just struggling and doesn't know what to do next.
Number one is behavior. Always, 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 always behavior. 98% of success comes from the behavior that you do that drives your attitude. You're probably not doing enough behavior. So most of the people in front of them, they just don't do enough behavior. They're just not doing enough of what they need to be doing on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. Number two is you need supporting beliefs to support that behavior. So if I'm going to go out and do the right things, I need the right thoughts in my head. And your thoughts a lot of times will stop the behavior. So even if I'm doing the right thing and I got a bad attitude, right, and you've all seen teenagers do that, they're doing the right thing, but they're grumpy, right? You still have to have supporting beliefs. So using a sales journal is probably my best tip. Being able to get what's in your mind, out of your mind, from your subconscious into your conscious, and begin having conversations with yourself. The reason that I know I'm struggling this week is because I'm thinking about and journaling what happened last week. It's conscious. I'm aware. Why am I feeling sideways? Why am I so disappointed? Why am I beating myself up so much? Right? Working through those things to be able to identify so that I can, again, put my foot on the gas and do it confidently and not be afraid, oh, if I mess this up, I'm going to beat myself up to the point where this isn't worth it. So do the behavior, get a sales journal, and start journaling those things to uncover what's really going on. How do I support this belief?
I love that. I went to a marriage conference in February, and he called it Ted in his head.
You and your husband went to a marriage conference? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the speaker was up there. He was talking about, yes. No, I went by myself.
Okay, well,
my
husband
stayed home. Anyway,
Ted in your head.
The speaker, I forget what his name was, Tim maybe, but he called that voice Ted in his head, which is actually, so it's true in sales, but it's actually true in a lot of different areas of life. We have, I don't have an L version of that. Anyway, there's a voice.
Mia in your head. There you go.
There's a voice that's telling you all the things, and they could be true or not true, but the feelings that we have to work through, I like that advice to journal it out.
Pro tip, use ChatGPT, right? I've been using ChatGPT to journal.
Like you're just speaking out loud? And
I'll yell at it and get angry and upset and all that and argue with it. It's a lot of fun. So
That is
if
a
you've
pro
not
tip.
journaled using AI, you're really missing out.
We'll have to try that one because we use it a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. In closing, where can people connect with you, Jordan?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also at Rise Spaces in Berlin. So if you're ever there, don't be afraid to come over and knock. I got one of the corner offices. You'll see my name there. TheRubyGroup.com is on the interweb. You'll find me there. And on LinkedIn. Those are probably the best places.
Okay. So how does somebody work with you?
Typically starts with a conversation. I'll either do one of two things. If you know you need to work with me, we'll usually sit down, put an hour on the calendar and put our heads together and figure out if there's something that makes sense. And the other thing that happens is people invite me in to do a sales meeting with their team, which is really fun. I come in and I run 60 to 90 minutes with your sales team, and I lay out what I'm going to do here on a Spark session coming up and show you the differences between salespeople and buyers and what are some of the conflicts there, and then usually meet half hour, 45 minutes with the leader and give them some insights into what I see in their business. And that's been a great thing. So invite me in to run a sales meeting or grab
Sit
an
down
hour.
and have a session.
Yep.
Okay, great. We love having you as a part of our community. Thanks for joining us for this Torch Talk, and we'll hear from you soon.
I have a name suggestion. I would just make a little bit of a change on the title. Tortured Podcast. A little bit different feel.